everybody. Good evening. We're going to get right to it because we both said this is past our bedtime. So this is late, right? I am so proud of this woman. I am so proud. Yeah, please. She is using her voice. She has turned pain into purpose. She's clear with her commitment. She's clear with her intention. And she's changing lives and helping millions of people. And that is a beautiful thing to behold. And so I'm so proud of her. She's been on the road for the past week with this book, which I know you all have. Which is a Bible, the manifesto for anybody who has gone through, who is going through, or who will go through this journey. So I'm going to start with the immediate thing. You've been on the road.
I have been.
What's it been like?
It's been a lot. I mean, I was thrilled to finally have the book out and published and just so ready to get out and connect with other people. Mm-hmm. I've been talking my brains out for 30 days. But it's just been really rewarding. And also being at these events, being able to connect with other care partners is really just at the core of it. That is very loud.
So if you notice, Emma has been very deliberate in using the word care partner. Which I think, so talk a little bit about why you use that word, and when you connect with other care partners, what are they telling you when you get out there and you meet them?
So, yeah, I mean, when I became a caregiver, there was something about it that I just wasn't crazy about the term. And what I had learned from Teepa Snow is about this term that she uses about being a care partner, that you are partnering with the person that you are caring for. And for me, that just made me feel like I was a part of Bruce's journey, that I wanted to be a partner, not just a giver. I wanted to partner with him. And that is something that's resonated with me. But, you know, I think for others, they just have to find the term that works for them. Some people say caregiver, caretaker. Mm-hmm. When I think of caretaker, I think of someone that is in the garden.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
But I think you're right, the word that works for you. And
absolutely.
So when you've been out kind of going from New York to Miami, you're meeting all these people, what are they telling you?
I mean, it's been so rewarding and so beautiful just to connect with others who now feel seen. Because caregivers are so unseen. They are really, you know, the unsung heroes. And I have loved being able to connect with people because as caregivers, we are so isolated. And I was so isolated for so long, and I just now have gone the complete opposite of that. Not isolated. I want to be able to share and be open and honest, and I think within that honesty, allows me to really connect with people, and we're all so disconnected in so many ways. And there's been something so beautiful about meeting people, having the same stories, the same connection, even though our paths may look different. You know, we are connected by this loss and this grief, and you can really see someone and hug them and be in that moment with them. There's just been something really beautiful.
What I think is so interesting is that when we find ourselves on a journey, whether it's a loved one gets Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or ALS, all of these neurological diseases, you have a special needs child, whatever, you may have gotten divorced, you may be, and you find yourself isolated and alone. And you were saying to me that you didn't know that community would be the thing that would help you out. That what was kind of hiding in plain sight was the answer to your isolation because you were so afraid to share your story, and that once you did, this whole world opened up to you. People met you with love and compassion and understanding, and that you didn't even realize that that was going to happen.
No, I didn't. You know, again, like I was so scared to share. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know what I could say. It was so important for me to just continue to protect Bruce and our family as much as I could. But what I realized that there just came a point where that isolation and that secrecy was too much to bear. It was just too much. And being able then to come out with our family statement and just to receive the amount of love and compassion, it was just such a great relief. And yeah, now I am a part of a community, and I love, no one wants to be a part of the FTD community or caregiving community, because when you are, that means that your person is not well. But let me tell you, that was the medicine that I needed. That was the balm that I needed, to be able to be in these rooms, have people see me, understand, and me to hear their stories. It's been wonderful, super nourishing for me.
So I remember when my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and this was in 2003, so it was much longer time ago. But the doctor was saying, once you've seen one case of Alzheimer's, it's one case of Alzheimer's, that everybody's journey is so completely different. Mm-hmm. And so when you go out and you meet people, their journeys are very different. Yeah. But do you feel like there's a camaraderie and understanding amongst caregivers, caretakers, care partners, even though the road may be very different? Your husband is young, really, mm-hmm. by comparison. You have young children. Mm-hmm. Other people may be dealing with a spouse who's older, with older children, or may have a completely different experience than yours. But what kind of brings you together?
I think it's the grief. I think it's the loss. I think it's the sadness. But not just that. I mean, the feelings that we share isn't just about the grief and the sadness. What also comes is anger and resentment, and that is that was so jarring to me when I realized that I was carrying around that, and that I felt so guilty, and I had so much shame that I must be like the worst person in the world because I have these feelings. And, when you go into that room of other caregivers, they are not shocked when you say that you're angry or you're pissed, or they absolutely understand that. And I think that's the beauty of this room too. It's like, yes, we have a shoulder to cry on, but we can also be angry and not feel judged, because caregivers, we are so judged.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, because when the book really came out in the beginning, you went on social media and you talked about feeling judged. Mm-hmm. That you felt that, and you wanted to talk about the judgment mm-hmm. that you think comes on to caregivers who make different decisions. And as I have always said in this space, and I've been involved in the Alzheimer's space for 25 years now, and that nobody walks in anybody else's shoe. No one family is the same, no one's financial situations are the same, and one of the most important things I've always advocated for is not to judge any family's road, right? If somebody finds that they need to, live in a different place, if one sibling can't manage whatever it is, to allow them the space that they need. If somebody has to make a decision, like at the end of my dad's life, we decided to put him into a memory care facility because my mother had just died and he couldn't live at home anymore, and he didn't want to live with anybody, and there was a community there, and that was a really wrenching and complicated situation, and there was and always will be judgment on that. Yeah. But I thought it was very brave of you to kind of meet that judgment by saying, I hear you. I know you're judging me, and by the way, you don't have a right.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there was, I talk about Bruce living in a second home, and I shared that in the book because I felt like, one, it was important for us to be able to control our own narrative, and I felt like, I knew by sharing that it would help someone else, because that is a really hard decision to make. And I know for other people, if they have to put their loved one into a facility, I know that they judge themselves, that they feel guilty. And I just wanted to be able to be like, I hear you, I understand you, and I know that you've been met with criticism and judgment, But I'm going to share this part of our story too, because you're going to see that I'm going to get that as well. But I just really felt it was important to share that. And listen, there's a lot of opinions out there, and a lot of people don't have the experience. And even if you have the experience, dementia is playing out in people's homes differently. You have to do what is best for the safest, what is best for your family, for your person. We have 2 young children. That was always in the forefront of my mind. And there was a lot of criticism and judgment, but I'm okay with it. I knew it was coming, and I felt it was important to share and just be able to stand grounded in that.
Because your mission with this book was, I wanted this book to be what wasn't available to me. When I went in to get a diagnosis, I was given, as you said to me, a pamphlet and told, good luck.
Yeah.
And this is not only, like, shall we discuss how difficult it is to get a diagnosis, but now millions of families will have something, if they get a diagnosis or if they are wondering, they will have something, because this young woman decided to apply herself and put it all down and try to answer all the questions that come up for all of us, starting with what's going on.
Yeah.
What is going on with my partner? So if there's anybody out here who is in the stage of wondering about their parent, about their partner, about a friend, how does one best go about, do you think, in getting a diagnosis or in asking the right questions?
I think it's really important is that if you start to notice something, a change in your person, because you know them better than anyone else, it's really important to get to the doctor. And it's really important to know that you're allowed to advocate for your person. And that, and if your doctor's not hearing you, you need to find another doctor who will. I think it's so easy to dismiss, and especially like FTD, which is just so ambiguous, right? Like, it doesn't affect the memory. So people can go in and take these memory tests and pass with flying colors. But when you think that something is going on, it is really important just to keep going back, find someone else. Talk to your person's doctor, whatever it takes to get you into that appointment, to be able at some point to hopefully land on a diagnosis is key.
So if people are sitting there, because people come up to me like a lot and they say, I think maybe my mom or my dad, maybe, but I'm not quite sure. How are you sure? What should I be looking for? He or she repeats a story. Mm-hmm. Is that a sign? Or people come up to me and say they're repeating a story, mm-hmm. or they can't remember something. And there's still so much confusion around when should I go to a doctor, because there's also a desire not to know.
Of course,
right?
You're scared. I mean,
right.
you want to, and then also living in the denial of it, right?
Right.
Like you don't want to have to go to the doctor and to then get that diagnosis. But I
Right.
just think really the sooner that you can be supported and understand what is happening, the better that it is, because you can't stop a progressive disease.
But your situation wasn't like I went to the doctor and I got a clean answer. So
No.
that's really quite common for people.
Sure.
So can you talk a little bit about your road and the pamphlet you were given and what that was like for you? Because I
Yeah.
bet there are other people here who've had a similar experience.
Yeah, I mean, by the time we got to that diagnosis appointment, everything was falling apart, right? Like, it was clear that I knew that was going to be the diagnosis appointment, but we, prior to that, it was a diagnosis of aphasia, which at the time we didn't realize that that was a symptom of the disease. It wasn't a disease, right? So that wasn't like the full picture. And when we finally got to that diagnosis, I did not expect to hear FTD. I don't know why I thought a young onset Alzheimer's might be better, because what I had heard from other doctors was like FTD was the one that you don't want. You don't want that one. And I remember hearing it and not hearing anything else. It was like the rug had been ripped out underneath me, and the doctor was saying whatever he was saying, and then he diagnosed and adios. That was it. He sent us away and just said, check back in a couple months. And I thought, how are we, what? This is it? We're just going? And yeah, we walked out of there with nothing. And then what I ended up doing was just going into the dark internet and searching up FTD and trying to sort of grasp and understand what that was and what that might look like for my husband and for our family. And it was terrible. It was just terrible. So, over time, I was able to put the right experts and specialists around our family to really help support us and to teach me this sort of new role and how I could best support Bruce and our 2 young children. And, this is just, I realized that I was just sitting on really important, valuable information. And I knew that it was helping our family, it was actually really keeping us afloat in such an incredible way. And that is how the unexpected journey was born. I was like, I have this information. I want to be able to put it into a book because I know that I have resources. I have access, which many don't. I have some time and I have some energy. And I want to be able to pay this forward to the next caregiver who doesn't have that. Caregivers are swamped. Right. They are so in the thick of it. And I knew that there was valuable information that you're not just hearing from me, you are hearing from these experts and specialists over and over again. And what they do, which I really needed, was permission. I really needed permission to know that it was okay to ask for help, that I wasn't a failure because I needed the help. I think as women, we're trained to sort of be so independent and self-sufficient, and we got this, and we do not ask for help. You are weak, you are a failure, and this is your husband, you must take care of him at all times. And I really had to kind of unwind that, and it was doctors, specialists that just kept saying it's time, you need help, and it's okay to ask for help.
And what's really remarkable is also to just pause a second and to think about the power of an advocate, that how important advocates actually are, because the questions, the journey, and then taking the time to put it all in a book so that other people all over the world have access to the information that came from your questions, that came from your pain, that came from you wondering, and now it's here, not by a doctor, right? Not by a regular person like all of us. And you've taken such, there are ways to write things in here for when you go to the doctors yourself. Emma takes great pains to actually go through the different forms of dementia and separate them out, because people think everything is the same, right? Everything is Alzheimer's, or it's not Alzheimer's, everything is just dementia. But people don't even understand how different dementias play out in different people and require different kinds of care, right? And what you just said something that I thought was interesting. You said there were things that you were learning that were keeping your family afloat. What was keeping your family afloat?
I think one, just getting to that diagnosis was really important. I think learning, and this is not really the question, but was just coming to mind right now, of once we got to that diagnosis, and also learning that it was important for me to separate. I could separate my husband from his disease, so that I wasn't angry with him, I was angry at his disease. So these were all these little things that I was learning. I was able to bring in people to teach me how to talk to our young children. How do I tell them this information? You think you want to protect and hide and not say the full truth. But what I learned is that it's really important to be in the truth of what is. So when Bruce was diagnosed, I told the girls that, their dad had frontotemporal dementia, and they were trying to remember how to those letters. And sorry, I know you guys were like, frontotemporal dementia. So they said, we'll name it as Fantastic Turtles Dancing, which was a way for them to sort of keep the letters in their mind. And from that, then I wait for the conversation, right? I wait for them then to ask me the questions, and when, and then I'm there to meet them with those answers. So they're here tonight. Like they know all the things. Yeah, so just having
your mom is here.
And my mother is here.
Yeah,
Jen, I have so many friends and family in this audience. They make me very nervous. I don't know why.
They're supposed to make you feel loved.
No, I know, it's nothing but love. I know that, but it's very nice to be in a
Isn't she doing good? Well, come on, where are all your friends?
It's hard content, right? Like
one of the things that I thought was so great that Emma told me is that when you reached out to experts, because let's just say what they are, that they told you there were certain things in the clothes you would wear, the way you would stand in the room, the way somebody saw you or didn't see you. Talk a little bit about that, because I think these are small things, but they're huge things when we're dealing with somebody who has Alzheimer's, dementia, FTD, on how to talk to that person, how to dress for that person. Talk about that a little bit.
So that was one of the experts that I looked up when we got the diagnosis, and I was like, there's like an expert for everything. There has to be an expert on caregiving and dementia, and Teepa Snow, her name came up, and she's a dementia care specialist, and I was able to reach out to her, and she really helped me fine-tune, these skills that I was figuring out how to caregive sort of in real time, but I really, I'm such a perfectionist, right? Like I want to do it all right, and she really helped with, just knowing these just obscure things that I would have never thought about. Black t-shirts. Don't wear a black t-shirt with someone who has dementia because it looks like you have a floating head. When you are speaking to someone with dementia, you don't want to stand straight onto them because it looks like you're being confrontational. So you want to just come in to them with your you stand sideways to them, either your left shoulder or your right shoulder. A lot of hand signals, like thumbs up. You're not asking them questions. You're not trying to get too complicated with things. You just keep things very simple. Black doormats. Don't have a black doormat in front of your door because it looks like a black hole in the ground. So it was just all of these really interesting pointers that I just thought, God, it's fascinating. And I was so happy to have this knowledge.
One of the other things you told me, which I think is so good, because we're in a time when we talk about grief, people are always wondering, what do I say? Do I reach out when someone is struggling, when someone has lost somebody? When I hear that a loved one has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's dementia in their family, what do I say? Do I ask about the person? Do I not ask about the person? And you said to me that people in the Alzheimer's dementia community never ask you how Bruce is. They ask you about you and the kids. And that everybody else asks you how Bruce is.
And I'm so happy that they do, right? But it's just, for me, I get triggered by it because then I spiral into, well, how do you think he's doing? He's got FTD. What do you want me to say? So, I have myself sort of ready to sort of answer those questions that when I know that they're going to come, I just kind of put my shield on and just say, you know what, given the givens, he's doing well. But it's really about, of course it's about your person, but we also want to show care and thoughtfulness to the caregiver and their family, because sometimes it is just really harder on the caregiver and their family, because it's a family disease.
So what should a person say to someone who's a caregiver? What should they say to them when they see them?
What can I do to help you? How can I help? And not even that. So what I ask of caregivers is that when you have someone that approaches you that wants to help, but they just don't know how to, it's a little bit of busy work for the caregiver, but I suggest that you write down some of these things that you do within your day, your week, your month, so that when someone says, let me know what I can do to help, you know what? Yes, I have something. Because what we want to do, what I used to do, is like, no, I got it, I'm good. I don't need any help, I'm fine, thank you so much. Because we're in like this caregiving fatigue. We're constantly making decisions, we're constantly figuring things out. And it's okay to, when someone is asking how they can help you, you just really need to be prepared to give them a list. Can you please go fill up my car with gas? Can you please go get me some groceries? Or go to the pharmacy. I mean, there's so many things that people actually can do. We don't have to take it all on. People do want to help. They do want to show up. They just don't know how. So the easiest thing for someone to say is, you know, just let me know if I can help.
So many people who find themselves in the caregiving, care partnering role struggle to think that there's somebody else out there who can do as good a job as they can.
Yeah.
They struggle to let somebody else in to be a caregiver, and also there is also obviously the expense of trying to hire a caregiver because they're so expensive, and there's a waiting list, and that's a whole other national problem that I can go off the rails about.
I can't wait. I'm going to follow you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have so many things to go off the rails about, but I think, you know, so the question is what would be your advice to someone who finds themselves going, there isn't possibly anybody else out there who could do what I'm doing?
I mean, I was that person. Again, only child, perfectionist, no one else can do this as good as me. But dementia is messy. And I think that it is really important to, in a way, you have to lower your expectations a little bit. And you have to know that it's, you're going to be stepping on people's toes a little bit to try and find the flow. But caregiving is not a solo mission. We cannot be doing this by ourselves, nor should we. People shouldn't expect that caregivers can do this by themselves. You know, you really do need community, you really do need support, and the sooner that you can bring that in and sort of let go of this idea of perfectionism, you have to do whatever you can to be able to sustain this journey.
And you said that really that kind of a light bulb went off for you when you were told that actually caregivers, care partners, often die before the person they're actually taking care of.
Yeah.
And that was a wake-up call to you and for you that you needed to shift your perfectionism, your I've got this, your I don't need anybody else's help, that you needed to change it up.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about dementia or caregiving prior, and you know, hearing this statistic from the neurologist of like, yeah, caregivers die before their loved one, and you need to be careful. And that was really a wake-up call for me, because you know, I just thought, I'm not going to have our children lose both of their parents. You know, that's crazy. So you know, I have my friend Franny. I don't know if she's here tonight. Is she here tonight, Franny? Oh, Franny, but Franny is here.
Where is Franny?
She's right here.
Oh, there she is, the maker of the best black pants on the planet. Franny, that's right. She makes magic pants.
Yeah, she does. I talk about Franny a lot in my book because she has really been such a support to me. But one thing that stuck in my head that she says, and she was quoted in this book for saying it, that just because one person gets the diagnosis doesn't mean two people have to die.
And what was great, or what is great about Franny, what you found in her was somebody who was further along on the journey than you. And so there was a woman who's also had her husband, and she was, you know, a couple years ahead with her diagnosis, and she could help you kind of like an older sister, so to speak, right? Or somebody who was further along, and that's a really important person to find.
Yeah, so I was introduced to Franny by Robert, who is one of Bruce's dearest
Where's Robert?
friends.
Is Robert?
Robert, he's in the back.
He's there too.
With his
oh
wife,
my goodness.
Beth. And you know, Robert knew that I was going through it, and he said, you know, I want you to meet my friend Franny. She is someone that you can trust. I've known her for so many years. Her husband, Paul, has young onset Alzheimer's, and she's a little bit further along, and I want you to connect so that you have someone to speak to. And I thought, okay, I don't know how this is gonna play out, how this is gonna work, but from the minute Franny and I started talking, that was it. She was just such, she's just been so supportive, and I am so grateful for her friendship and that she is ahead of me. And I could speak with her so openly and honestly about anything, and she never judged me. She, just said, me too, Emma. Oh, I get it. Oh, I've been there. Oh, I understand that. You know what? How about this? And she gave me ideas, and I just think it's so important to find your Franny. I think it's so important to find someone who is on the journey a couple of steps ahead of you, because she has been my lifeline. She has been my lifeline.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And as I say, she's an incredible designer.
And
too.
she makes great jeans.
And she makes
and I benefit from them too.
Dresses and shawl, the whole thing. I wear all her stuff. But what I think it's also a moment to pause, because we're so inundated with kind of this rancor and divide. And what you're really saying is that you're traveling around the country and you're being met by kindness, by love, by compassion. People want to help. And so I think this is one of the great messages of tonight that I hope people take away, not just what's in this book that will help people on this journey, but also what Emma is reporting back from the front lines of life today, so that we don't lose hope about where we are in our country, that people are good, that people want to help, that people want to share their journeys, that people want to help you find your way and share information and share their humanity. And that's what makes us human beings, right? And that there's so many more good people in our country. There's only one Franny Gold, but there are people like you, right? There are good people, that are meeting you with this book, meeting you with open arms, meeting you as a fellow caregiver, a care partner, and thanking you and saying, yeah, me too, and I want to be on this journey with you, because we're an older population. I know people don't like to hear that, but California has the largest older population in the nation. We have more people with Alzheimer's in the state of California than any other state in the nation. We have the largest need for caregivers in California than any other state in the nation. And this is a story that is happening nationally. So this is a story of our time, and it is a story of brain health, which Emma is very active in. It's a story of neurological health. It's a story of caregiving. Primarily, it used to be women, but now men are also finding themselves in this position of finding support groups. But it's a story really of our country, right? That you're really talking about. And you're saying, look, this happened to me and it was unexpected, but it's happening to millions and millions of people. The numbers of caregivers like you in the 50-some millions in our country, unpaid caregivers, right? I think it is 11 or 12 million in the dementia, Alzheimer's space alone. For them, this will be a godsend, because so often neurologists, you have to wait a year to get into having an appointment. And and then being able to kind of navigate or figure it out. What advice do you have? I have 4 brothers, and we all, when my dad was diagnosed, we all processed it very differently. And I have found this to be the case in almost every family that I've spoken to, that a spouse is processing differently than a child, than a sister, than a brother. And how do you help get families on the same page? How did you get your family, blended as it is, on the same page?
I mean, I think it was communication, right? Like, we've always communicated about what is happening, how best to support Bruce, I mean, I'm very fortunate, right? Like we have a very supportive, united family that loves Bruce and wants to show up for Bruce and care for him. So that has always been helpful beyond, but I think for other families, sometimes it is so complicated, right? It is very complicated, and people aren't on the same page, and they're not in the house caring for the person, and they don't see all the things that the other person is seeing. I mean, I just think that it really comes down to just being able to try and talk to the family. If it's email, if it's sending a letter, you know, whatever it is, just to sort of I think it's important for you to be able to share what is happening with the person that is dealing with dementia, and how they could best come in and support.
No matter their age, no matter where they live, did you find yourself at kind of the epicenter of everybody's questions and everybody having different opinions about how it should play out?
I've been really lucky with the respect and thoughtfulness around the care that Bruce has. I don't think anyone's ever questioned it. You know, that is my experience. This is a very unique experience. This is not how this plays out in other people's homes. I know that. I know that it's very complicated, so it's hard for me to speak about something that is not my experience.
You wanted people to have this book, but not to have to read it from start to finish.
Yeah, no.
That this is a book that you can read from start to finish if you choose. And I've read it from start to finish, I don't know, like 20 times. But
you're my publisher, you have to.
Yeah, I'm the publisher. I'm the unexpected publisher. But why did you wanted it to be like somebody could just, bring it in help. Just go and read that chapter. You wanted this kind of to be, in a way, multiple books in one.
Yeah, what I loved about this book was that, no, you didn't have to read it from page 1 to the end. Mm-hmm. You know, you pick it up, you can just start anywhere, right? Because it's a prescriptive book. It's there to care for the caregiver. And I loved that, you know, we repeated some of the information in there, because I think for me, I like things repeated a couple of times because it takes a while to get things into my head. But that's what we did. You know, I made sure that it was peppered through so that, you know, caregivers could keep getting that message of it's important to care for yourself so that you can sustain this journey. You know, the permission in there to be able to ask for help, how to ask for help. I just think that and the experts, my God, you open up a page and then you just get a quote from one of these experts, or you get Franny's quote, and it's just you know, you're walking away, I felt with nuggets of information.
Yeah, why community matters, the person who's ahead of you, building community and connection, emotional writing, questions and answers with Teepa Snow. These are experts that separating the person from the disease, right? Yeah. Fear, grief, trauma. So at the kind of base of someone dealing with someone who has dementia, there's a lot of grief, right? Yeah. And I'm looking at David Kessler over there, who is a grief expert and a friend. So it's nice to see you. And people, it's hard to grieve somebody who's living. And so talk a little bit about that, about
the ambiguous
loss.
It's
the ambiguous grief, or the ambiguous loss, or the confusing thing of am I grieving you? You're sitting here. Yeah. You're not sitting here. People's own struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to watch someone that you love lose pieces of themselves over time. You know, that has been the hardest thing, because FTD is just unkind, like any form of dementia. It just takes. And when you think it's done taking, it's not. It's going to take a little more, and that's just been really hard to watch. And you know, people sometimes don't understand this idea of ambiguous loss, because they're like, well, how can you be grieving someone that is still alive? You're so lucky that they're still here. And it's yes, but it is still a loss. You know, we have lost so much in our lives, and it's just about, for me now, how do I walk alongside that grief? Because the grief is always there. I am always carrying it with me. It is always right here. But I also know the importance of being able to bring joy and laughter in our lives too. So I'm learning how to sort of, not balance, but just walk alongside the grief.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
It's a choice. I made a choice. You know, I made a choice that I wasn't going to allow FTD to take our whole family out, and that I needed to choose to bring happiness and laughter in our lives, because Bruce would want that. He would want that for his daughters. He would, you know, he wouldn't want that any other way. So that is a conscious decision that I have made, because me just grieving him isn't going to change what is. You know, it's not going to bring him back. But I can grieve. I can be in the loss of that, but also find joy and laughter, and know that that is okay as well.
So kind of, there's a lot of urging people to make choices in this book. Choices to ask for help.
Yeah.
Choices, even if you don't want a diagnosis, to go seek one. Choices to seek out therapy. Choices to confront your anger, to confront your resentment, and ultimately to look at your grief, and ultimately to choose yourself in this battle with this unkind disease. And I think that that's probably a really challenging thing.
It's so challenging.
For caregivers, is to choose yourself over a person that requires 24/7.
It's the only way to sustain it. It's the only way to sustain it. And again, you go back to the statistics of caregivers dying before their loved one. How is that gonna work? You know, that has been the only way for me to sustain this, is to realize that this idea of self-care, which I don't really love that term, it's self-preserving, right? It's not selfish to try and put ourselves up on the top of this list. It's that is what is going to sustain this long journey of dementia, so that we can keep showing up for the people that we love and for our family.
You talk about, you have this whole section in here, reframe the journey.
Yeah.
And remarkable reframe, caregiving is transformative. Is this, I am experiencing unconditional love? Why was this chapter so important? Remarkable reframe, my family is learning too. Remarkable reframe, my person has taught me so much. What has Bruce taught you?
I mean, there's been so much beauty that has come out of something that's been so hard, you know, that has been full of sadness and darkness. You know, again, like being able to turn that pain into purpose. That is the reframe. It's not this like idea of toxic positivity, like, oh, I'm just gonna like be positive and like just sail through this. No, it's like, it's really about, and I never thought I would be here. I mean, I even say in this chapter, reframe, you don't have to read that yet. Like, if you are not ready to reframe this chapter, I hope that you'll come back to it later on, right? I can't even believe that I am here today. Because, no, really, because in those early days, there was no way that I could reframe this. There was no way that I could think that I'd be on stage with you because I wrote a book and, you know, I want to share what I've learned with someone else. I just couldn't even imagine it. But that is part of this choice of like, you know, I'm going to write our story. FTD is not going to write our story. I'm going to do it. And that has just been, that is the journey. That has been what has been helpful for me. You know, advocacy, helping someone else, being of service to someone else. This is what gets me up out of bed. You know, it's like this idea of helper's high, that there is like a chemical reaction in your body when you help someone else, and I need all the natural highs I can get. So that's what I'm doing.
As Mr. Rogers says, looks for the helpers, right? What are you surprised at yourself?
I am so surprised at myself. I mean, I hate public speaking. I'm on my beta blocker, as everyone you know, I set the alarm. I knew we were going on stage around 8, so 7:30 that alarm went off, and I was like, gotta take that just to sort of settle, because this is not where I feel like I shine. It's very hard for me to do public speaking, but you know what? Like, I am very grounded in my mission. I am taking a stance. I normally don't like to rock the boat. I don't like, I just try and like be like Switzerland. But like I know what my message is, and I know that I want to support someone else, and I know that our paths look absolutely different, but I know that I want to be able to help someone else, and that feels so good for me to be able to do that. And like what Bruce would tell me is like, just get out of your own way, Emma. Just get out of your own way. And that is what I am doing. And I know that he would be so proud. He would be so proud of me.
I love that. I'm so proud that your daughters and your mother and your stepdaughter Tallulah is also, there she is up there, that can see you on this stage and can hear the difference in you because you're grounded in your mission and because you're clear with your intention. And what is it finally you think that you want people to get from this book and from your mission? And what do you want people to join you in?
Oh God, there's so many things. I mean, again, going back to this idea of like, it's okay to ask for help. We're not a failure if we do. It's really important to raise our hand, to know that caregiving is not a solo mission. We should not be expected to be doing it on our own. It's just not sustainable. So I just think that it's really important for people to hear that, and then they're gonna hear that multiple times in this book. That I really needed that permission. So I think that is something that is so important that I hope that people walk away with, so that they can again sustain this journey.
Well, you're advocating, I think, which is also really, there's a political aspect to this. So you are advocating. So talk a little bit about how people can help in that.
I think it doesn't have to be, I'm going to Sacramento and I'm going to Albany, and at some point I will get to DC. I will get there, but I'm learning, I'm taking baby steps. But I think that, again, it's advocacy it doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. It could just be about sharing your story. It can be about, getting online if you're comfortable to do that. Yeah, to be able to talk about what FTD or whatever form of dementia it is that you're going through. Raising awareness is so important. The awareness piece for me is so important because we want people to get diagnosed sooner, right, so that they can get into the clinical trials that are there. Repeat that. So we want people to get diagnosed early so that they can get into the clinical trials that are there. The issue with FTD is that people get diagnosed way too late and they can't get into these trials because at that point it's too late for them. And I don't want to see families dismantled because of this, of not having a diagnosis. It's so important to be able, that this whole thing of talking about it and raising awareness is so important, because again, we want that early diagnosis. We want to see these trials. I want to see a treatment. I want a family to go into that office and not hear that there is nothing that they can do. I want the next family to be able to go into that doctor's appointment and say, here is a treatment and here is support. That's what I want.
And here's Emma's book. This is a true, what I call, architect of change, because that's how things change, is people share their story, they build community, other people help them along, advocacy starts, it starts small, and then it builds, and clinical trials happen, laws get passed, lives get changed. There's a formula, and there's so many good people doing such good work like Emma out there, changing the face of FTD, Alzheimer's, dementia, fighting for funding, fighting for clinical trials, and people often are afraid to get a diagnosis, so they put it off. But as Emma just said, there are a lot of clinical trials going on, and the earlier you get into one, or you have a loved one that can participate in one, the better that loved one's chances are of actually turning something around. There's no cure, I understand, but being a part of a clinical trial is a form of national service. And there are a lot of really interesting trials out there. So encouraging, and if you suspect that your loved one, father, mother, aunt, partner, has something, it's okay to have these conversations, and it's okay to get together as a family. It's okay to suggest going to a doctor, because you can say that comes with some hope. And you can also tell them, you can pick up this book and find your way there, and that's something that she didn't have. So I know Ted now has questions for Emma.
Jim asks, although necessary, the job of a professional caregiver is often seriously underrated compared to other professional occupations, even though it requires more empathy, stamina, flexibility, and sacrifice than most jobs. It is considered by some to be a second or third-rate occupation. What can we do to improve that status in pay or respect?
I mean, I don't know, but they are so needed, right? I mean, I think that caregivers deserve, formal caregivers deserve every single cent that they make, every single dollar. I mean, we're in a national crisis. I mean, you said that, right? There's not enough formal caregivers out there, and that is why, you know, it is landing on families. But again, like, formal caregiving is incredibly expensive. You know, most people cannot afford that. So, you know, let's talk to the government about how are they helping? How are they going to help support? I mean, there's 63 million caregivers in the U.S. and with no support. And now we've got cuts with Medicare and Medicaid, and like, that was already complicated. It is complicated, you know, but I don't have the answer.
It's a job that AI can't do, and so it's a job that I'm a big believer that actually humanity, and the more we dig into our humanness, the more we dig into our humanity, the more jobs like this will be seen as things that human beings can do well. The more we emphasize these kind of jobs in our communities, to our children. Everybody wants to go be the founder of an AI company and make $1 billion. So it's really a societal question. It's about values. What do we as a society value? Are we caring, compassionate as a society? Where do we put people who are aging in our society's value system? What kind of people are we raising up? And so I think talking in communities, raising people that see certain professions as valuable as a sports star, as valuable as an AI company, is really the work of parenting. It's the work of political leaders, but it's the work really of all of us.
What she said.
Right? And I think this is highlighting the need for that. So all of these things matter.
Diana asks, what is the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself during this journey?
That I am stronger than I ever thought. You know, I did not know that I had this in me.
I love that. That's so great.
You don't know. I mean, I think people are like, I don't know how you do it. You're so strong. But you know what? I think people sell themselves short, because I think when it knocks at your door, you are going to answer the door.
Lauren asks, how do you deal with the day-to-day trauma of watching your loved one become someone they are not?
Yeah, that is hard. That has been extremely traumatic. For me, again, it's been important for me to be able to talk about that, to find someone to be able to talk about that trauma with. Franny, find your Franny. You know, find someone who's been there, who has seen that, who has had a front row seat to that, so that you can talk and be seen and cry and, you know, just to be heard and validated. I think, you know, early on, I think I just kept everything so internal. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, you know, but that was a recipe for disaster for me. It's been really important for me to just open up and communicate, find community.
There are also a lot of wonderful support groups that are now out there that different organizations run.
That's right.
That are available to people who might all of a sudden find themselves thrown into this position and of different ages. There are support groups for men, there are support groups for children, there are support groups for partners. So this space is changing. People like Emma are changing the space, and people are saying, I need this, right? And people are responding by providing whatever this is.
And I mean, one of the good things that came out of COVID was that there's so many things that are available online now, right? So
Right.
if a caregiver cannot leave their home because they don't have the support at home, there are online community groups, support groups that you can go into.
Jim asks, a family or friend caregiver sometimes has to radically adjust how they will spend the rest of their life if caregiving for a loved one is suddenly thrust upon them. I have been a caregiver for 25 years, and I thought it would only last a few months. The wife of a relative of mine has to suddenly adjust her life because her otherwise brilliant husband developed primary aphasia. He is 72, she's 75. What recommendations would you give to sudden caregivers when dramatically faced with this situation?
Like when you first start out on the journey, again, it's support. I know I keep saying the same thing, but it's really important to find support. It's community, it's reaching out. It's, again, that you cannot do this by yourself. This is not a solo mission. It is about how are you going to rally people around you? How are you going to tell people, just communicate. You need to really bring in as much support from family and friends as possible to be able to sustain the journey. You can't do it by yourself. You're not supposed to do it by yourself.
Brad asks, what is the best advice you can give to someone, or perhaps the best advice that was given to you early on when you first started to witness the beginnings of cognitive decline in Bruce, at a time perhaps where there was no conclusive diagnosis? What was some of the early advice people gave you?
You know, I don't even remember. I don't remember. There is such an area of my life that I do not remember. I think I was just in survival and just trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, you know, again, like trying to cover things up. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I mean, that is how traumatic these experiences are. You know, it is not a straight line sometimes. And again, each path is different. But I didn't answer the question.
But I think that's a really great point that, you know, for people who find themselves like you in the beginning of the journey, as you were just saying, you're scrambling to stay alive. You're scrambling to put the pieces together. And so, of course, you're almost disassociated from life as you know it because you're in a survival mode yourself. And so I think also, which speaks to society at large, to have compassion for people who find themselves thrown into these situations. They're not thinking of advice, they're thinking of like, oh my God, my whole world just blew up. And so, you know, for those of us who know, who have friends who are in that situation, to offer them compassion and to be patient with them and for them, because they can't even put, you know, they don't even know where the bread is, right, in the house. It's that primal, right? It's that basic. And once again, that comes back to valuing caregivers, valuing other people, being compassionate and kind ourselves. And this is a whole societal shift that really you're asking and that you're talking about, and that will be required as more and more. You know, every 65 seconds, a new brain is diagnosed with Alzheimer's or a form of dementia. So this is something that's coming to every doorstep and coming to all of us at some point. All of us will either be a caregiver or will need care. Mm-hmm. And so putting this at the top of our family discussions, our political discussions, our neighborhood discussions is a smart thing for all of us to be doing.
And to talk about care, right? To understand the kind of care that we would like. I think that is really important. Yeah. That's what I hope, is that this discussion of care becomes a little more normalized. I mean, I think, you know, we don't like to talk about death or grief or, you know, but care is something, Now I have a very detailed kind of idea and plan so that it can take the burden off of my children to have to make all of those decisions. I think it's really important for us as a society to really think about the kind of care that we want.
Beautiful.
Thank you to both of you. Before you came on stage, I asked people in the audience to raise their hand if they're caring for someone or if they have a loved one close to them experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's or cognitive decline. And practically every hand in this auditorium went up. So thank you for the courage to work on this book and put it out into the world. And for you in the audience, I hope you take this book and share it with friends and loved ones so one step at a time we can make things better. Thank you to both of you.